When we won, the vote went up. When Wall Street won, the vote went down. Which I think is a pretty bad sign for this fall, if we end up with a Wall Street candidate.
Yes, sir.
At that point, once again, they began to say, well, maybe he's going. And then, frankly, Senator Santorum did something very clever. He went to 3 states nobody else was in, and he won them. And the news media, once again desperate to prove Gingrich was gone, suddenly said, now we have the person who's going to be the non-Romney. Now, Calista and I looked at each other, Jackie and Jimmy and Kathy and Paul, my 2 debate coaches, Maggie and Robert. By the way, I would say for the performance they get out of me, the most underpaid debate coaches in America. Although they'll probably talk to me about that later on, I shouldn't have said that. But in any event, we looked at each other and we thought, remember when it was Tim Pawlenty who was going to crowd me out?
Yeah.
And remember then when it was Michelle Bachmann?
Yeah.
And then it was our good friend Herman Cain the first time?
Yeah.
And then for a brief moment it was Donald Trump almost. And then it was our good friend Rick Perry. And then it was Herman Cain the second time. And now it's Santorum. And you just can't quite get across to him. It's all right. There are lots of bunny rabbits that run through. I'm the tortoise. I just take one step at a time. And I've always tried to be very candid. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but on balance, I think it's how I want to live and how I want to do things. And so I said at the very peak of the Santorum surge and all this stuff, if I can't carry my home state where people know me, I would have no credibility. And I knew the basic Wall Street technique, which was to come in and spend lots of... How many of you have noticed negative ads? Okay. How many of you have noticed the Reagan negative ad that is a total lie? Okay. I mean, that's what we're up against. It's one thing to have lots of money. It's another thing to lie with the money. And so I looked around and I thought, let's go home and let's test it out. I'll go home. Calista and I crisscrossed the state. Kathy and Jackie were great help. And I have to say, Governor Deal did a tremendous job and worked very hard. Herman Cain stepped up to the plate and worked very, very hard. Todd Palin made phone calls and really helped communicate that there was a candidate who ought to be helped. The fact is, in Tennessee, Fred Thompson was just tremendously helpful, and in Oklahoma, J.C. Watts was extraordinary. And so we basically put people power up against money power. And as you saw, the very first race they called tonight, about 15 seconds after the polls closed. And so I'm here, first of all, to say thank you to each and every one of you, because you are the reason we survived every effort of the establishment to stop us. Now, being here at the Waverly brings back many memories. In 1994, this is where we learned that for the first time in 40 years, there would be a Republican Speaker of the House. And for that entire campaign, all of the elites thought we were crazy. First of all, we ran a positive campaign. We had a contract with America. They just thought that was weird. Why would you go to all that trouble? Have all these ideas. We didn't spend our time on lots and lots of negative ads. We spent our time communicating hope to the American people. The result was the largest one-party increase in an off year in American history, because the American people want a chance to have hope again. So, as Calista said, tomorrow we'll bring another chapter in the race for the nomination. But it's more than a chapter in the race for the nomination. It's a chapter in a fight for the soul of the Republican Party. It's a chapter in the fight for the very nature of America. It's a chapter in defining who we are as a people. And let me be very clear. I believe that I am the one candidate who has the ability to debate Barack Obama decisively as well. And let me be straight. I don't believe the Romney technique of outspending your opponent 4 or 5 to 1 with negative ads will work against Barack Obama, because there is no possibility that any Republican is going to outraise the incumbent President of the United States. Therefore, you can't follow that strategy. What you have to have is somebody who knows what they believe, understands how to articulate it so it cuts through all the media, offsets the bias of the elite media who are desperate to re-elect the president, and has the guts to take the president head on every single time he's wrong. Well, we run a very frugal campaign, and we couldn't afford one. But I've already promised that if the president will agree to 7 3-hour debates in the Lincoln-Douglas tradition, he can use a teleprompter if he wants to. And I'll get to that in just a second. But I want you to know that in the morning, we are going on to Alabama. We're going on to Mississippi. We're going on to Kansas. And that's just this week. I was actually in Huntsville this afternoon, starting off our Alabama effort. And I want to say to all of you, any of you who have friends anywhere in the country, if you can email them, if you can post on Facebook something as simple as Newt equals $2.50 a gallon gasoline, if you can go to Twitter and put in hashtag 250 gas. I mean, we run a very inexpensive, very straightforward, reach every single person campaign. Now, I just want to give you one example of how profoundly different we are, both from the other candidates and from the president. One that I would love to debate this president about. And that's the one that a number of you are holding signs for. Yes. I want us to have an American